Yes. Okay. It's the full moon solar. No, I was like, it's not a solar eclipse. It's the other thing, the summer solstice. And we're still in that portal because that's the 20th. So today's the 22nd of July and 20, 21, 22. You got this 3 day summer solstice portal on either side of the summer solstice. So we got another double whammy here. We got a very potent full moon. This is a very strong full moon. And we also have the summer solstice vibe. So we'll check in about that, kind of see what's happening with some of the astro juju in that space, and see what Mula's about. This sign that the full moon is in, the root. It's kind of a really dark place in the astrological zodiac within the nakshatras, the lunar mansions. So if you're watching this as a recording, you might be like, wow, this is a really short circle because me and Marianne were just totally shooting the shit for quite a while. And now we're coming into the vibes. That's good times too. Yeah. So I'm flying a little high from a ridiculous cultural experience that we had yesterday. Ridiculous in so many ways. And I want to share the story because there's just so many juicy tidbits in there. And one of those is, if you really want to learn in another culture, you have to be willing to make a fool of yourself. And that could be a lot of things. I don't mean like act a fool. No, acting a fool isn't going to get you very far, actually. If you don't understand cultural norms, act a fool might actually get a few doors shut for you. No, the fool I'm talking about is the self perception of the fool, right? Where you're like, I'm uncomfortable. This is awkward. I feel like everybody's staring at me, or I don't know what's happening in the situation. I'm just going along with it. Like that kind of make a fool of yourself. So it's really about making a fool of yourself with yourself. And really, you're the only person who's judging you. And especially, another facet of this, of being in other cultures, you think everybody's talking about you. You think that, there's more attention on you than there is. Sometimes you just have to remember that when you're staying in a place where there's a high amount of tourism, outside people, foreigners, are coming in and out over and over and over again. You're being paid attention to for a very short period of time, and then you are being forgotten. But you are hooking onto those things and dragging them along with you like a rolly suitcase, like a heavy carry-on, and getting checked at the gate. Yes, little travel metaphor for you. So yesterday's mission here within the full moon summer solstice portal was to attend a family wedding of my music teacher here. And my music teacher he's so loving and he's so open-hearted. But I've noticed that when we organize around events and logistics, he's very like happy-go-lucky, not like detail-oriented. And literally, I'm in a place where maybe I can get myself where I need to go. Maybe I actually need help to get where I need to go. So so there's this plan. In the last music class, we did a whole repertoire, like 2 hours long, of songs that we're going to perform at the wedding. I was like, we're going to perform at the weddings. Oh, it's just family, no problem. Also, keep in mind that we communicate in 4 different languages in my music class. It is a hodgepodge collage of Arabic, Spanish, French, and English. Yes. Just mash it on up. Just get the communication out, right? But that also lends itself to a high level of maybe we're understanding each other. so, so he's like, okay, let's do this. the folly began with it's a 2 day event. It starts with the henna party, where the bride will get henna, a very ornate henna, painted on her hands and her feet, and all the women of the family will gather, and everybody will get henna, and there'll be tea and cookies, and singing songs, very lively songs that are of the genre of bridal henna party songs. They're upbeat, and they're like very loving, because in a traditional family, the bride, is leaving the family home. And so weddings here are really a mix of joy and grief. So one household is gaining a daughter, and another household is losing a daughter. So the henna party should be really happy, right? She should be really excited and being showered, with love and beautification and all, and so um, I thought it was going to be kind of a party situation and, like this. And my teacher calls, he's like, oh, they decided it's going to be women only. So just bring your drum. You can bring your son, no problem, because he's still considered a boy, not a man. And just go and play songs and like hang out with the women. I'm like, here we go. It's gonna be all Arabic. I've never been to a henna party here. I've been to henna parties in India and Indian weddings in America, so I'm not like at a complete loss. But it was already starting off on this like theme of, yeah, let's see. So we enjoyed at the henna party. Yeah, we drummed it, and so then it was time. The next day we're gonna go to the wedding. So speaking through my Arabic teacher to my music teacher, I get the name of a venue written on a piece of paper. It said, okay, go here. That's what your music teacher said. So we put on our finest clothing that we have in our suitcases. Not too bad, sufficient, you know. And we got a taxi. We got a taxi to the place, you know. And we come in the place, and the first thing that happens unexpectedly is there's three women sitting kind of just a little bit inside the venue, and they do a very loud sort of calling with like, oh, and some chanting, and we to everyone that has arrived for this wedding. So we walk in, and we're just like, oh wow, that's a lot. And we look around the room, we don't see anybody that we know, and we're like, maybe we're here early, you know. Maybe this is the groom's family and like the bride's family hasn't come. We don't know. And my son is like, I feel really awkward. I said, well, this is the initiation of living in other cultures. You gotta like, this just happens from time to time, but we have each other. I said, that's way more fun because usually I'm alone. So this is way more fun. We have each other, right? So we kind of sat awkwardly in one area, and nobody knew us. So nobody greeted us, but we weren't not welcomed. But we do not know anybody in this room. And then at some point in time, a lot more family members come, and it seems like we're sitting in an area where the family should be sitting. So we went and sat in a whole other area, but there's a lot more guests starting to come. And I see that they're starting to set up this, I should find the Arabic word for it, but the wedding tradition here involves the bride being carried in palanquins. That is what they are technically called, so like kind of a box, like a hexagonal shaped box with struts, with wood, and four people there carrying her, a palanquin. Right, so there's a lot of palanquining at a Moroccan wedding. Yeah, that was really amazing. And so I see them setting up, and I was like, okay. I said, here's the plan. We're going to stay here until the bride arrives, and then maybe we'll know if, in fact, we are at the right wedding. We're trying not to laugh. We're talking to my Arabic teacher. She says, but the music teacher, he's not responding. I said, oh my God, I don't see him. He says he's at the venue. I don't see him here, but I don't want to go walking around. It's a very nice venue. They have a very nice 8-piece Andalusian music band. And so on the inside, I'm having conversation. If this is in fact the wrong wedding, do we stay? Now, the amount of hunger that was building said, yes, that makes us official wedding crashers, but I don't want to go home and cook dinner. So maybe we're just going to do this. Nobody's questioning who we are or what's happening. Also, we look Moroccan ish. So we're going with it. Tea and cookies are served. I said, well, here we go. You know, who knows what comes next like this? And at the last minute, I get a phone call from my Arabic teacher who was on the other line with my music teacher. Yoli, you were at the wrong place. We're coming to get you. So I was laughing and laughing and laughing. And there appears my music teacher. Yoli, you were at the wrong wedding. Let's go. And so we didn't look anybody in the eye at the place where we were. I just went over to Rhodes and I was like, just get our stuff. I mean, I got my drums and our like book bag from school. And I'm like, do not look anybody in the eye. We're just gonna bolt. So they just grabbed our stuff and zoomed out. And I thought about it later, like, I wonder if they were like, who the hell were those people? I wonder if they put it together and all. They're like, I think those people figured out that they were at the wrong wedding. Yeah, yeah. So that was how our 2 day marriage festival went. We never ended up performing because there was also like a 10-piece band at our real wedding. And when we got to our real wedding, we saw everybody from the henna party. It was kisses all around. Everybody does, bisous. Also, here in Morocco, it's one to the left and two minimum to the right. But if it's really loving, it's just like, then, but if it's really loving, it could be 3, 4, 5, 6 on that same right side. So the sort of moral here, or the in conclusion, we got to the right wedding and we were so relieved that any of the normal amount of awkwardness that you would feel about attending somebody's cultural, thing the first time, not knowing what's going on, feeling out of place, it dissolved into nothingness. And Rhodes turned to me and he was just like, I feel totally relieved that we're at the right wedding. I was like, I know. And this is the pricelessness, cross-cultural learning of, getting out of the comfort zone, but like smashing the comfort zone to bits, of like what happens in life when you accept the challenge to just grow beyond the limitations. And I really do think that that is influenced by, a harmonious influence of this moon portal. It's all about transformation. But you don't transform when everything's easy. Like, that's not how it works. Like, when everything's easy, enjoy it. That's the time where you're supposed to enjoy the plateau, enjoy the high, enjoy the peak experience, enjoy the fruition, the outcome. It's like kind of the 9 and 10 cards, but especially the 10 cards in the tarot decks. That's what they're all about. They're like, 9 was the completion, 10 is now the thing that comes after the completion before the next thing starts. It's the complete flourishing of it, like fruit, like fruition, right? This moon is keyword transformation. I can put the link to Moon Dance Astrology, to Pamela McDonough's website. She has a really lovely and simple newsletter that she does around new and full moons and anything like important transits. and she's my personal astrologer. She's the astrologer that I refer everybody to. And so I was looking at her, newsletter in preparation for coming here. And so if you want to know where that energy of transformation is landing for you, that's when you look up your sidereal birth chart and you identify where your moon is, which of the 12 zodiac your moon is in, and which of the 12 zodiacs your rising sign is in. And the moon aspect of it will tell you what, in terms of mental transformation, moon is mind. So, what mentally is going to be challenged in this moon portal for transformation? And then when we look at the Lagna, well, that's your star, right? That's your sun, your personal illuminating power. So that's going to be like all the things and who you are, all the aspects of your fate and your being and your relationship and your work and blah, blah, blah. So whatever house those two are, that's how you read into, okay, this moon, ooh, it's going to impact me in such and such a house. The themes for that house are blah, blah, blah. That. So I was just looking at her newsletter and she really like spelled it out. She's been simplifying her newsletter lately, which has been really nice. And also giving like rituals to do for each of the moons that are all about the specific. So I like stuff like that. Like, let's be engaged, right? The point of astrology isn't to think, oh, it's the stars and planets doing this to me. Yeah, it's not. The planets are not sentient beings. But they are celestial characters. Long, long, long ago, prior to this forget civilization, like this world, this era, epoch. Yeah, epoch might be the word. Before this epoch that we're living in. Pick a measurement. You want to call it Kali Yuga, you want to call it, and I mean, Kali Yuga has a date kind of start as well. It's like 3,000, 3,500 BC. So even Kali Yuga is too recent of a measurement. This is way before. Seneca style, we're at the end of the fourth world, entering the fifth world. Fourth world of separation and control, entering the fifth world of peace and illumination. Inshallah, we hope, wish, pray. No, the age of the celestials, that's like super long time ago. Way long time ago. But once upon a time was a time. A time of gods and demigods. A time of celestial forces. A time of the planetary characters. It's that inheritance that informs Jyotish, Indian sidereal astrology. It's actually all based in these stories of the celestials. It's really fascinating. And so that's how you get the grammar of, oh, okay, this planet, this house, this sign, this signifier, this math, this square, this trine, these combinations. And then you've got, 10,000 years of data. They're like, okay, so when a year with this combination of stuff comes up, we see X, Y, and Z. Like that. So there are texts on texts on texts. Brihat Brihat Horashastra is one of those like that. So, as Pamela shared in her newsletter, in the calendar, the 12-month calendar, whatever lunar calendar in South Asian style, you divide from winter solstice to summer solstice, and 6 months. And from summer solstice to winter solstice, 6 months. Those first 6 months from winter solstice to summer solstice are seen as the time of year for new activities, new beginnings, initiations, and high spiritual growth. From the summer solstice to the winter solstice is seen as a declining time. Things turn more inwards, more restfulness, processing, simmering, digesting, kind of like this kind of energy. And in that storytelling of the celestials, Vishnu goes to sleep. What kind of sleep? Yoga Nidra. That's the image of Vishnu asleep on the snake bed with the hooded snake, dreaming the world with the lotus coming out of his navel, and Ma Yoga Nidra seated by him. Now, this kind of cosmology of like 6 months, and then this back end 6 months absolutely does not fit into a capitalist context. So I think we hear so little advice around this kind of energies, because, right. So I'm supposed to do all this work from the winter solstice up to the summer solstice, and then the whole back half of the year I'm supposed to just chill out, process, relax, dream, be in liminal. Yeah, no, capitalism does not have the time of day for such an idea. But because of the significance of the solstice, we can draw an astrological chart from the point of the summer solstice, just like we do. So if we want to know about the year ahead, like New Year's chart, we draw the chart from winter solstice and we look at the year. You've heard me share the information about the year when I attend the webinars and things with my teachers. So you draw a chart at the summer solstice for the next 6 months. That. And so, as per Pamela's suggestion, I looked at the chart for the summer solstice. Like, what's in the cards for the next 6 months? Well, so remember how we have this kind of double header right now? We've got this full moon, and we've got this summer solstice energy. So, where is sun placed at this time? Because the full moon, where is moon placed at this time? What else do we see in the charts? There were two things that I saw, and I'm not an amateur anymore. I will no longer call myself an amateur astrologer because I'm studying in a certification program now. So I am a very official student of astrology. And so what I saw in my rudimentary, I'll call it, view, first and foremost, the two nodes of the moon, Rahu and Ketu, are in the first and the seventh houses. So that's like the loudest thing in that chart that is staring you in the face. So right off the bat, what we can say is these next 6 months are going to have some radical changefulness about them. Even that feeling of eclipsing, cutting type change, radical passion, and maybe not the kind that I'm interested in, fiery transformation, headless activity in relationships. And this Rahu and Ketu, I should have drawn up the chart to look at it again, but Rahu and Ketu are in, okay, just pause for a second because I kind of want to get this right for you instead of getting it wrong and then putting a lot of comments after. Be like, okay, sorry, went back over everything and I got it wrong. Okay, 622. Okay, so this is Seattle. That'll do. And this was the moment of the solstice, which was the 20th. And it was at 12:50 p.m. Okay, and here's what I'm gonna do because I can. So I'm just using this like online application. Okay, so this is what the chart looks like. It's not very big, but so this is the first house here where this word Ketu is in the sixth. So we've got the so this was a couple days ago, so this is not the full moon chart, but we've got Ketu and Rahu in the first and seventh houses. So that first house, self, ego, prominence, right? Seventh house, relationships. And self, ego, prominence. Ketu is the dragon without the head, it's just the body. So headless activity. And then the sign that we're in is Virgo. So then we're looking at like the indications of Virgo, which have a lot to do with growth and also some creativity as well. And so it's a curiosity. Ketu is considered a malefic. So, but that doesn't always mean bad, but it sure can mean intense. Ketu is one of the most spiritual planets that there is. And so, why would a malefic influence that doesn't have a head and only have a body, how on earth could disillusionment be part of spiritual practice? Because you have to cut through all the attachments. You have to dissolve all the attachments in order to arrive to true spiritual insight and understanding. So Ketu's in your corner, but Ketu doesn't care about your like your wealth or your power or your relationships or your beauty or your mind. Ketu doesn't care. Ketu's other half is the head without the body. That's Rahu in the seventh house. So that means crazy passion. But it's in Pisces. So that's interesting. I look at this, and even as I'm talking it out, I see huge spiritual implications, like to the spiritual dimension of life. And that really wildly coincides with this cosmology of this back 6 months. Pisces is the place of dreaming, watery creativity, subconscious mind, liminal spaces. It's the natural 12th house. So, wow, this could be really cool. Unless you're on some like totally achievement, ego oriented, like wealth production kind of thing, you may not like this influence at all. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the other thing that that stood out to me when I looked at this was these other three houses. This sixth house where you see the number 11, this eighth house where you see the number 1, and this 12th house where you see the number 5. And those are called trik houses. Those are the places that hold like the karmas. That's like the fodder for transformation, karmic ripening, kind of thing. And so it's like, who's hanging out in those places? Some real strong characters. In the sixth house of deaths, enemies, and diseases is Saturn. Who's hanging out in the eighth house of transformation, spirituality, occult, black magic and stuff? Mars. And then who's hanging out in the 12th house? No planets, but it's being influenced by by Leo. Leo is ruled by the sun. Where's the sun right now? Hanging out here in a kind of intense place like this. Um, Intensely interacting with Venus and Mercury. Okay, so there's some technicalities for y'all. There's some technicalities. So, what does that all mean? I see transformation. Just like keyword transformation. Like that's what we're seeing. That's what's available. So this full moon in the chart, at the full moon, sun and moon will be in opposite places in the diagram, in the chart. And so so this moon is getting heavily influenced by that combination with the sun, Venus, and Mercury hanging out together. So they're having a party. Sun, Venus, and Mercury are having a party right now in Gemini and Ardra. It's a really kind of wrathful and intense place, Ardra. And Venus is not having a good time at this party. Mercury is the happy-go-lucky planet that kind of parties with everybody because Mercury will take on the characteristics of whoever Mercury is partying with. So Mercury is going to take on the characteristics of the strongest character at the party, who is the sun. Mercury spends a lot of time with the sun. Remember, Mercury is the closest planet to the sun. Mercury spends time with the sun all the time. You know, so Mercury's like, I'm used to getting burned up by this party animal all the time. That's called combustion. So a weaker planet is close to a stronger planet. And the effects of the weaker planet are diminished. So who's not having a good time at this party is Venus. Because the sun, Venus is too close to the sun right now. Venus is combust. So all the things that Venus is about, beauty, artistry, sensuality, embodiment, love, romance, burnt to a crisp. And at summer solstice, at the timing of the chart, Rahu was in that seventh house, right? So Venus is the natural ruler of the seventh house. So like you got all this crazy amount of heat. Just do not be surprised if relationships are not easygoing right now. Like take a huge step back. It's summer. It's a lot of solar energy. It's hot. It's burning. Don't draw conclusions of, and this could be business relationships, this is what partnerships, right? Now, where's the moon in all this? This is the one painting the picture of the full moon. Moon is in one of the trickiest places of the whole zodiac. It's a nakshatra, a lunar mansion called Mula. Mula is deep and dark. It's just into, I think Mula has a little bit in Scorpio and then Sagittarius, the majority. I believe this moon is in the Sagittarius portion of Mula. And this is a place of karmic knots. We have to visit these places if we're going to play the game of karmas. Sometimes we're on the plateau. Sometimes we're hanging in the fun part. We're in the easygoing part. We just went through a growth cycle like this. And when we visit these zones of karmic knots These are places where there's a change in the elements, like from water to fire or fire to air, like this, volatile places. Oh. So you have planets in Mula. Right? When transits move through Mula, transformation is on the table. It's on the menu. 100% always. So let's read a little bit about Mula. See what, there's some interesting symbols. So the karmic knot, this is the galactic center. So we on planet Earth are aligned with our galactic center in our galaxy. And so every time we pass through Mula, we align with the galactic center, which means we get one hell of a download every time. So, ooh, Mula, come on. Mula is also, no surprise here, the place where, so Mula means the root, like Muladhara chakra, root chakra, first chakra. And this is where Vishnu takes his nap, is in this nakshatra, in this place. So lots of interconnectivity here. Yeah, we're in Sagittarius portion. And this sign transforms animal man into a spiritual being aspiring towards the supreme. This asterism is assigned to the shadowy planet of Ketu, which also produces spirituality. Mula also marks the point where the galactic center intersects the zodiac, which further emphasizes spiritual influence. The spiritual implications of this lunar mansion are further indicated by the symbol of an elephant's goad or prod and a lion's tail assigned to it. I've heard some other symbols, like Pamela talks about, like the red vulture, the male dog, this one type of tree, a group of roots that's very common. I've spoken before about this symbol of the elephant's goad, because this comes up as one of the sacred weapons in the tantras. The goad is the instrument. I mean, it's a bit rough, but we all grew up with animals in zoos, not like, not animals, elephants in zoos, right? Not elephant cavalries, in your army, right? So put yourself in the context of a culture that grew up with elephants, and elephants are domesticated in a sense, So this is the instrument that's used to pull an elephant down. That could be to put a seat on the elephant to be ridden by a warrior in cavalry. That could be to put a seat onto it because people are going to go by elephant transport somewhere. So to pull an elephant down doesn't just mean something mean, but and there's also subjugation, control. So the goad hooks behind the elephant's ear and motions them to the ground. Yes, that is through pain and discomfort also, right? In the tantras, symbolically, the goad is what you do to the ego. You hook that ego and you drag it to the ground. It's like you have to be willing to pummel the ego, to pulverize the ego. Or, some of their favorite weapons, to club the ego, to slice the ego, I love the Vajra hammer, to hammer the ego, like this. These are the symbols. So this is a serious place, Mula. This is spiritual transformation of the real kind. We like it when it's easygoing, and we need periods of rest. We need periods of easygoing. We need plateaus. We need times where we set the bundle down, and then there are times where it's potent transformation. This is there. We need to learn about these cycles to be able to be like, oh, I'm surfing in the big waves right now. I'm ready. Like, let's go. Like, you got to have some power with it, some chutzpah. The presiding deity of Mula, a favorite of the blue team, Maniriti. She is about as wrathful as you get. Yeah, she's like the most wrathful of all the wrathfuls. She is the goddess of destruction or negation. Mula itself means the root. It marks the end of materialism and the beginning of the spiritualization process in man, in human. Its basic attribute is sattva, harmony. And while it has rajas, activity, at secondary and tertiary levels, its primary motivation is kama, is desire. Desire for what? Liberation. Niriti is a demon. I beg to differ, but classifications here. What she is a wrathful deity. I really wouldn't call her a demon. I don't think that that's accurate. She's a personification of death. I gotta be honest with you. So I'm reading from Myths and Symbols of Vedic Astrology, Bipin Bihari. There's a lot of things I like in his language. He brings in these very Christian ideas of things, like a lot. So I don't know what his total story is. Maybe he was, maybe he's Christian. Maybe he's Hindu. Maybe he's Buddhist. We don't know. Maybe he went to Catholic school. But something has influenced this man, this author. He comes out with some real kind of Judeo-Christian kind of stuff. Okay, so the word Mula refers to Ravana and Kamsa, two mighty demon kings of the Indian epics Ramayana and Mahabharata. The dreadful aspect of this asterism can be comprehended by examining the terror perpetuated by these demons to force men and women to change their nature. I pause and ponder the collective in this moment. Terror seems to be running quite rampant. Ravana was a pious and mighty king born in the highest class. He performed the most arduous penance, pleased Lord Shiva, and thereby received the most precious gifts from him. But his prowess and rich materialistic attainments made him so drunk with power that his egoism reached the culminating point. He abducted the wife of Rama. This is the very well-known story of Ramayana, Vishnu's incarnation on earth. Rama destroyed him, but the death from the arrows of Rama, a great avatar, carried Ravana to the celestial realm. Whoa, we've really been on some intuitive chit-chat today. Ravana's story is similar to the story of King Kamsa, who was killed by another incarnation of Vishnu, Lord Krishna. Kamsa's story referred to human hostility towards the divine. Kamsa had a sister, Devaki, who married Vasudeva. As the newly married couple proceeded to their nuptial abode, angels announced that their eighth child would destroy his uncle, killing Kamsa. On hearing the angelic voice, Kamsa imprisoned the couple and killed their offspring as soon as they were born. When the eighth child, Lord Krishna, was born, he was transferred by divine assistance to safety and grew up unknown to Kamsa. Eventually, Kamsa found out that the child was alive and a conflict began between them. Krishna destroyed the cruel king, and finally the reign of terror that came to an end. Thus, whether Mula stands for Kamsa, Ravana, or the king of death, the asterism stands for foundation. It points to change, a radical transformation in the nature and life expression. So remember, if you want to know where this radical influence is, you look up your chart and you see the mental influence for your moon and where this is, which house this is landing in your chart. It has a special position in the evolutionary scheme of the soul. With the termination of Scorpio impulse in Jeshta, the one right before, the soul reaches its acme of material attainment. Whatever lies within its material sheaths is realized. For this reason, at the beginning of this asterism, Mula, the arrogance or the egoism in humans, knows no bounds. This tamasic productivity has been completely wiped out in order to enable the spiritual forces to flow. Releasing such destructive influences, Mula justifies its role as the goddess of death. But this death is inflicted with the purpose of arousing the dormant spiritual energy in the soul. In this sense, the asterism fulfills its role as the foundation of a new beginning. It initiates spiritual unfoldment. The deaths of Ravana and Kamsa brought about the destruction of their egoism as well as their personal salvation, their spiritual awakening. Mula marks the advent of spiritual awakening, a new spiritual era, and the downpour of sattvic forces. And in so many ways, we can connect this to this 6-month mark, right? This back half. What we get in this back half is the downpour of sattvic forces, balancing forces. How is that done? Through rest, creativity, liminality, spaces in between, occupying the creative rest space. In this context, the two symbols, the elephant's goad or prod and the lion's tail, are very suggestive. The huge elephant, like the physical body of human, is subjugated under the Mula impulse. Huh. I didn't read this before we came on here today. The goad is used to control and guide the elephant to move in the desired direction. The force exerted by the goad is painful. This pain reminds the elephant of the elephant driver and his will. Mula inflicts pain, but the pain is intended to set the course of action along the right track and to remind us that the outer nature has become negligent to the real purpose of the soul. The elephant is an auspicious animal capable of much service to its owner. In the same way, the human body has a noble purpose and can be immensely helpful to its inner immortal ruler. Mula is motivated by kama, the desire for sensate pleasures. As a result of the soul's involvement with matter and the physical forms of existence, its cravings have become intensified. Any resistance to these greatly upsets it. One feels extremely disturbed if impediments are created against the satisfaction of one's desire. But this is exactly what happens under Mula. It makes the individual violent and cruel, his mental balance deranged, the need to control his passions, which of course is an arduous task, directs the latent energy towards spiritual unfoldment. So there's a cruelty here, meaning a directness. Yes, okay, just kind of skimming through. I think that's good. Whew. So that's where the moon is. And then we've got this Venus combust, super strong sun in Ardra, like really blazing hot kind of thing. So what can we be doing? Well, here's what I did today. I took myself to the Hammam, to the sacred place of bathing and restfulness and rejuvenation. And I've been noticing, I've spent time in Morocco in the months of October, November, and December, and now April, May, June. So I've got like half the year in terms of seasons, right? And I love a good weekly hammam. It's important for mental health, spiritual health, and creative being. Yes. Oh, and body also. Very much so. Therapeutic. Today, it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit in Fez, Morocco, and we got a heat wave. We got about 3-4 days in a row where it's 100 degrees. And usually you would think, is that really when I want to go to a hot, steamy bathhouse? But what I've noticed is that they adjust the experience to the season and the environment. The floor was not heated. It was cool. The marble slab was not heated today. It was just room temperature. The water that was used during the bath and scrub was just lukewarm. And at the end of it all, a dousing with as cold a water that would come out of the spring fed tap underneath this like 800-year-old hammam. Oh, the beauty of it all, the movement with the seasons. I was not overheated by the experience. It wasn't heat for heat's sake. Our tools for rest and rejuvenation should change with the seasons and the environment. We can enjoy the right thing in the right amount at the right time, skillful means. And so it's peak of summer. It's time for the cooling, rejuvenating practices. It's time to allow the spark, the fire of creativity to come through the liminal, the cool, resting, relaxing space. There's so much daylight right now. I mean, at 8 p.m., 8:30 p.m., it is still bright where I am. Your body doesn't say, yeah, you should have eaten dinner at 6 and let's go to bed by 9. Yeah, it's just not what's flowing. This is time for siesta, right? We take rest in the afternoon. We take the dinner a bit later. The bedtime is later, but we add it to the rest quotient in the afternoon, right? And if your life doesn't allow you to make a choice like that, how can you be inspired by the spirit of that? That's where we have our quantum rest tools, right? The compound rest tools. Let's say in that period of time of day between 3 and 5 p.m., that's peak heat in the summer. That's also running in the kidney time, in the East Asian clock of the body, instead of reaching for caffeine or sugar. How about a 10-minute rest? Whatever is your job, whatever is your life, you can take 10 to 15 minutes of rest between 3 and 5 p.m. You can make that happen. I believe in you and your ability to be creative in your problem solving, right? So think about that like use yoga nidra, use breath meditation, breathing exercises, and restfulness. Oxygenate the body. And from there, how can you be a little bit more easy with the back half of the day, right? And we wake up early and we use those energizing hours of the morning, right? And even that is a reflection of that 6 months of the year from winter solstice to summer solstice and back half of the year from summer solstice to winter solstice. So that's a big share